it's sort of like sitting down, having a cup of coffee,
Well,
and taking
I
on this
I got some
topic.
coffee here, so
Oh my
all
God,
all for it.
yes, got it. Of course, mine has rum in it for the whole.
Well,
Kept kidding. I had invited Seth Werkheiser, who is now running one of my favorite newsletters on Substack, which is the Social Media Escape Club, which is such a great title. Gives the person everything they want to know right to the heart. And I've been interested in this topic of people disengaging from social media. I think, God, I started ragging on about it maybe 12 years ago, when I started to get an inclination of what was actually happening there. And then I think you would agree that over the last maybe 3, 4 years, the enshittification,
mm,
which we can put a link up to Cory Doctorow's definition of
for
that,
sure.
which I heard became like Webster's Dictionary Word of the Year, which I
Oh,
thought was very cool.
yeah.
But the sort of denigration of social media and its greed in giving people less and less and demanding more of them as their time, whatever, with self-promo or being a creator. And to me, it's just turned into a labyrinth from hell, really. So Seth's work is something I think it's important for folks to grasp, embrace, and start to play around with as ways to untangle from that and kind of reclaim their creative life. So that's why I wanted to talk with Seth. And then there's a little bit of an odd angle as far as our orientation because of the way he's working in media. And then my approach as an astrologer that uses astrology for reads on pop culture, tech, everything like that, as well as work that I do with my clients. So I wanted to start, um, I wanted to start our discussion kind of going right into the dark.
Ooh, bring it.
Well, I think with your Scorpio rising, you don't mind that I share some points about your chart.
No, no, go for it.
Okay,
Yeah.
because your chart has a Scorpio ascendant, which the ascendant in a person's chart really is a key part of their life path as I work with astrology. And Scorpio is a sign, sort of a disruptor, and it likes to take on topics that are sort of running into the undercurrent of the culture and then sort of excavate them and bring those up into consciousness. So it's really dealing with taboos or with crime or forensics, things like that, that the person is interested in bringing that to light for other people. So what I understand of Social Media Escape Club is it has those components to it, but you bring to it a very solid, uh, you know, as a Gemini who's hooked into the zeitgeist, you could say, as far as communication and dissemination of information goes, you found a nice balance and you make it kind of a lighthearted way for people to find that escape from social media. So when I say like going into the dark, I want to get your take on that of what you see and what you experience as the most restrictive and kind of draconian changes that have happened within social media, say over the last 10 years.
Mm.
So what does that call to mind for you when I bring that up?
Definitely the allure for a lot of people, a lot of, and my background is in music, so I saw a lot of musicians and bands and record labels years ago. We all kind of gave up websites, and we did that going back to the MySpace days. It's like, oh, I could just set up a Facebook page, and that should be it. That's all I need. And that worked for the big companies because it worked for a minute, because you could put up stuff and it would get 50 likes or 100 likes or whatever. This was a decade ago, and then algorithms change. It had to, and especially to make money. And I've just seen a lot of like anger and fear. Fear is a big one. Of we're almost like a despondence of like, I'm doing this work as an artist, I'm putting this out there, and nobody cares, which isn't true. It's just that nobody sees it.
Right.
It's, you're lucky if you get 5% of your audience to see anything. That doesn't mean no one likes it. That no one knows about it. And so for me, that's really been the bummer part. That's been the darkness to me, because we have these amazingly talented people making great art, and it can't be seen. It used to be seen, and now it's not. And we have so many people that just like, well, I'm giving up. And I've seen that. I've seen people like, yeah, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm shutting this down, whatever. No one cares. And as a society, as a culture, like, we suffer because of that. And that really bums me out. And all I want to do is make Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk cry and have their kingdoms crumble, their social media systems crumble, and they lose money out of this. I want them out. I want them done. Like, because they're doing so much harm, not just in music, but and culture, but the world, society. So,
Well, I would add to that also to what's kind of an amorphic word, but to the artist's soul is actually, I would say, minimized, because, and I learned this the hard way when my first book was published some years back, and that was working with an established publisher. I had an agent, blah, 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 did all the fucking work of getting the book, written, which wasn't easy.
sure.
And then once I turned it into the publisher, it was all about, well, what is your online following? What are your numbers on Instagram and Facebook? And I was like, well, isn't that your guys' job? Like, I've done the work, got the book to you. And it wasn't. And this
Mhm.
was some years ago. So that change had already occurred. So the artist is suddenly forced into this category of becoming a self-promotion machine. And then, social media hooked onto that, got
Mhm.
everybody trained. That's where it was. And then initially it wasn't so bad, but then as their greed grew, and this whole thing within shitification is, it was less and less for the creator, more and more for the advertisers, and then it shifted away from the advertisers and the artists to what was the bottom line for the platforms, and them keeping us on this treadmill that gave less and less, more and more diminishing returns for
Yeah.
people. So then they've got everybody in this roach motel, and I think it generates a really soul-crushing kind of depression for artists, and then maybe they abdicate from what they're trying to do and just say, "Fuck it," "I don't wanna be a self-promotion, I don't wanna be a brand
Mhm.
that, plays this game and whatnot."
W
Go ahead.
Well, you brought it up earlier of untangling. Like, we are so entangled in what social media is, and it's just expected. And that when you even bring it up to anybody of like, well, maybe I'm not going to be on social media. Like, as an artist, as a designer, as a photographer, as any creative person, it's like, well, you have to. You have to. There's no other way. And
Right.
it's just such like, and that's untangling. Like, we are so tangled into this toxic relationship with Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and all these that, and it's almost impossible to fathom for a lot of people of like existing without social media. And that's where we're at.
And I think especially more mature artists or older folks that aren't they weren't born into the internet and social media like the recent generations. And I've heard many of them, especially my clients that I work with, say, I just don't have it in me to go into this. I don't know what to do. It's overwhelming, all of that stuff. But what
Sure.
about this point I brought up to you when we were corresponding an email about it's one thing to describe to people the techniques you offer and the suggestions you offer for escaping this. But like I said to you in that one email, this is sort of like asking people to like not be watching films or movies or TV anymore. That we're so
Hmm.
enmeshed in that in our culture. I think with all my study of what you're doing and observing what you're offering, that seemed to be sort of the blind spot in the equation. Like, can people really disengage from this? And given how our lives are enmeshed in tech, and
Hmm.
not only that, how the arts, music, painting, writing, all of that, it's like the heart of all that creatively has shifted to the technological and the digital
Hmm.
and special effects and that's where what the pinnacle of an art for somebody, say as an artist, was 80 years ago. Now it's like it's shifted. The zeitgeist is now tech, digital, and
Yeah.
all of that. What's your feelings on that idea?
Well, yeah, I mean, the big thing I think is like, for musicians, a big part is, what are your Spotify listens and, how many Instagram followers do you have? Same with book publishers, they want to know this. And for me, like, and so if you don't have those numbers, then you can't be in those places. You can't get that book deal. You can't play that venue. And that's just the game. And that you can't win if you don't play that game. And I just really feel like, is that the game that you want to win? Is that the game there's people with these inflated Spotify numbers that can't sell out venues. You might have all these numbers, but you can't sell tickets. Same with these TikTok stars. You have all these numbers, or these celebs with book deals that get big on social media and they're not selling anything either. Like the number, like, have real fans is the biggest thing. That Cassidy from Dedicate Your Life to Music, who's been working in music for over 20 years. The biggest thing, have fans. If you have fans, you don't have to give a fuck about what the label says, what the booker says, what the agents like. If you have fans showing up in front of you and making a buzz that way, like, you can do whatever you want. Is that easy? Is that as easy as like hitting post on a social media platform 10 years ago and it gets 1,000 likes? No, but that what are you gonna do? Like, are we gonna keep throwing money at Meta to like get more likes, or are we gonna hop on the next platform? It's that chasing of things and platforms and tech rather than handing out a flyer to someone. Hey, I'm playing at this venue down the street. Oh, it's not a
Mhm.
Live Nation venue, but who the fuck care? Like, I just want to see some rock and roll, or self-publishing, or whatever, like making zines. How many people do we see making zines on Substack Notes? Like, it's like every other post, it seems sometimes, or people making their own photo books. I talked to Colin a bit ago from Noise. Like, he ordered a pallet of books. He never made a book in his life. He never, like, that was his first one. A pallet. None of us are equipped to have a pallet of books in our spaces, but he
Right.
did, and sure, it would have been great to sell them all online and stuff like that, to not even leave your kitchen and just ship books. That would be great. But no, he had to go and like apply to be at book selling events. And that's how he sold 500. That's how he sold a pallet of books, by kind of pounding the pavement, knocking on doors, being in the right rooms. And that's how you do it. And like, again, it's hard as fuck, but like, what else are we gonna do? We can't. I keep thinking like, oh, someone needs to make a new social media platform. Someone needs to build a better platform. That ain't coming. And if it does, it's going to be made by a bunch of rich white dudes that are jerks anyway, and they're
Uh,
going to fuck it all up anyway in 3 years' time. So go busk, go play a show, go print a zine, go. I can't get in a photo gallery or a gallery show because I don't have the Instagram numbers or whatever. Fuck it, go hang your stuff out on a wall in town or something like that. Go. We are so entrenched of like we must serve the tech gods first, and we must appease the algorithms
mhm.
to do this thing that we used to do 20 years ago that way. But like, fuck it, burn it all down. Like, it's got to get dirty and DIY again.
Mhm. I'm seeing, in fact, it was just this morning when I was putting some notes together to speak with you in this discussion, and I saw, I wish I'd written her name down. She has a newsletter on Substack. I'm having to train myself to stop saying the person has a Substack and say a
I
person
know.
has a newsletter
Mhm.
on Substack but anyway, and she had a very interesting take on all of this, and I felt it brought a bit of balance to just what you were saying about go out, hang posters out on the street and stuff, because that in itself will take like a major rewiring of somebody's brain, especially younger folks that are trained on watching Kim Kardashian have 8 million followers, that whole mindset. And maybe that can be me, I can do that shit. But she was saying, like, well, if you are going to stay in social media, you need to, number one, get away from the notion that you're just throwing stuff out there and then waiting for the likes and the clicks and the follows and all of that. And she was kind of implying like where you take what the beast has created and you twist it and work it to your
Oh
advantage.
yes.
And her MO was like, stop trying to like do self-promotion, which you're hoping will lead someone to your website or your newsletter or whatever.
Mhm.
And you just start giving like the heart of what you are creating. You put it right out there to people. And her theory was that that actually will grab somebody's attention within this glut of everything they're being inundated with.
Mhm.
It really made sense to me because I really don't believe we're going to be able to completely, in the spirit of what you're promoting, disconnect completely from that media and what that offers. Even if it is in tatters now,
Mhm.
people can find creative ways to make it work to their advantage. And this is one reason I'm, I don't know, my confession to you is that I am enamored with TikTok because of everything that remains within that environment. TikTok to me, even though it has the crazy ass algorithm and all that, it really does have this sort of subversive spirit to it that you can find people and hear people deliver things that do pull you in a way that stuff like on Facebook or Instagram, which is just a shithole now, if
Mhm.
you remember the old Instagram. And that intrigued me that there are still options out there. And that's something I'd love to see in your work with your newsletter and your outreach, to explore more of that so people
Mhm.
can, you know, they can mitigate somewhat of what you're promoting of, you've got to go out on the street, hang out posters, buy 1,000 books, have them delivered at your house and like get them out there, which is, I think, all great ideas.
Mhm.
I remember reading this thing a couple years ago about this author. He wrote some kind of romance novels that were geared to, well, obviously more women read those, but he, wrote his book, self-published it, got, like you said, a shitload of books delivered to his house, and he just put them in his trunk, and he went all through the South and delivered a copy of each book to beauty parlors
Mm.
all over that area. He just went up and down the East Coast and down into the South, and women started reading this romance novel, getting their hair done, and then telling their friends, and then the book, and I think eventually it got on the New York Times bestseller
Mm.
list or something. So
Yeah.
there are, to your point, there are crazy scenarios like that,
Yeah.
but you've got to get away from the notion, oh, I just have free publicity on social media, and get
Sure.
in your car with your books and drive around.
Sure, sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm not a huge like, yeah, it's not so black and white. I never like delete all your apps right now. Like I'm like, delete your app, you can put it back tomorrow. Like just practice it, you know? Practice leaving social media. But also I've written, and I need to resurface this because I mean in the past year I've had an upswing in subscribers and it's pretty wild. So a lot of people don't know my older work, but like one of the big things was the idea that the vault is still open, which means you could still posting something on social media, like you're putting it there, you're posting, and like I hope this takes off. I hope the algorithm takes it and shows it to a bunch of people. There's hope. It's out of our control. For me, the in control part, and this is the vault is still open. It's like going into the like you can go into the vault, like, but you can only take $1 or $2 out at a time. You can go on social media and like reply to people. You could like other people's stuff. You can get in conversations with other people. Does that scale as well as it did a decade ago where you could just post something and 10,000 people saw it? No. But the algorithm, the system, whatever, this is how working with the beast is like, if you reply to someone, they're going to see that reply no matter what. Everyone's going to see that notification. Someone replied to my thing. Someone liked my thing. Who liked my thing? That is a way, again, it's small scale. It's not like a growth hack, you know, because it's so slow, but it only takes 1 or 2 people of the right people to like change everything for you. So if you're replying to people in smart ways, if you're reaching out and getting the people's DMs in a beneficial way, that's not just, hey, check me out, that can, yeah, absolutely can work to your advantage. Like the DM game is huge because there's a lot of influential people on Instagram still or Twitter or whatever. And like a well-timed message here and there with good intent and not just check me out, like can change your life. And it has. You and I probably both know a ton of stories of people that have set up collaborations or started working with people, or this person knew that person, they got introduced. Yes, it can happen that way. It's hard, but you know, so is just posting something and putting your hands up and like hoping for the best.
Yes, so this is a great point to elaborate a little bit more on, where you again take the responsibility out of the hands of the platform, because people are trained to think, well, it's connecting me with everybody. You might have 4,000 followers on Instagram and 10 of them see a post because
Exactly.
of how the algorithm works now. Used to be better there.
Sure. Oh yeah. Yeah.
But this thing of direct communication, DMs, things like that, that's primarily how I've been working with social media, I would say the last year or so. And Substack actually made that what felt like a much more intimate way to me in being able to do that, the way that their platform is set up. It still has, I mean, I have some issues with Substack, which I think we should maybe talk about.
Oh, I'd love
But
to.
I think it has a more intimate feel there, and I've had some great results. You know, DMing somebody, getting into a conversation. I just did this with a photographer on there the other day. Saw a picture I loved of his. And, you know, I said, well, I'd love to put this on a post I'm doing for the holiday. He was like, great, I love it, give you a credit, put that up. So I'm hoping to see more of that kind of more personal engagement with people
Oh,
through
yes.
a platform like that. I mean,
Mhm.
you do that on like Instagram or whatever, your message goes into their spam folder. Because you know, they really kind of dissuade you,
Oh, sure.
Instagram does, from that kind of stuff, unless there's something, they can get from you
Mhm.
out of using the DM app or whatever.
Or you by just replying though, again, you can't just say awesome post. Yeah, or on LinkedIn, all the people that would reply, yeah, totally, absolute, whatever, heart emojis, like that doesn't work.
Right.
But I always say, like, be the person that people want to see show up in the replies. Like, have that insight, add something to the conversation below someone's post because you
Exactly.
never know. I know it's a growth hack, but it's a dumb like LinkedIn growth hacky thing, but it's not because if you can write something that resonates, that can get you 10 subscribers. That could get you a job.
Yes, absolutely. And here's another dark side about people's psychology that I
Mm,
think needs to be explored in this whole thing. And again, we got trained into it through the whole things of likes and follows and hearts and all of that, is that people get into this weird power dynamic where they want to feel like, well, I'm doing my thing here and I've got like, oh, all these people are like responding and liking this. And then it kind of pushes them up the ladder, and whatever their gauge is for fame or
mm.
whatever. And I think that's a very interesting phenomenon that needs to be like destroyed,
Oh yeah.
because people need to look at what what it is, what are they doing as an artist, which is really to like communicate something to other people, rather than it being just like people lauding you and giving you thousands of likes and then you move on.
Mhm.
So to your point, it's bringing in, a more intimate or personal exchange that actually, if they're real to themselves about being an artist, the feedback from somebody that's real and genuine can, enliven their art more, right?
Yeah, the responses, like, do I notice the likes I get on my posts on Substack? Of course. I'm human. I've been trained to do it, trained to look at it and wait, this one has less than that one, or this one got more subscribers than that one did and stuff. But like, I'm pretty ambivalent to that, like just having done this for so many years. But the impact of someone emailing you, especially out of the blue, like, not even from, like, replying to an email, but, like, finding your email address and replying, and, like, I had 2 people in the last 2 weeks, no lie, reach out and said they read my music blog that I started back in 2001. That was a shit ton of time ago. And, like, they found me, and now they found my Substack newsletter, and, like, oh my goodness, like, and we reconnected, and, like, from something that was from 23 years ago. Like, that rattles my mind more so than, like, "Oh, this thing got 25 likes." Like,
Exactly.
the impact of, like, are you getting emails? Are things happening around what you're doing? And not just in the online space, but I think energy-wise, just, like, out in the world, like, it's not just the internet. The stuff we post on the internet and the art we put out there, like, I think resonates and reverberates
Yes.
in everything we do, and, like, it doesn't just stop when we, like, close our laptop and go down the street for coffee. That whole that whole walk can be magical, like, if we let it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've done this myself over the years. I mean, it's kind of my nature to be a communicator, but I don't know, like a month or two ago, I remember reading a review on Joni Mitchell's Hissing of Summer Lawns,
Mm.
this album that I had been enamored with since I was, a teen. And this guy on Quietus had written just this killer review of it. And found a way to like track him down and write him, I don't know,
Mm.
like it was a paragraph email just saying, dude, this just fucking blew my mind. You nailed this.
Yeah.
You know, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of human exchange that gets this cut out, and this everyone's just a voyeur looking at
Mm.
what people are doing, and then the only validation is the like check or whatever,
Oh yeah.
you know. So
Yeah.
it's bringing the human back into the fucking machine,
Absolutely.
rather than just the ghost in the machine that's like,
Yeah.
you know, pulling all the levers and stuff like that.
Yeah, a musician friend of mine, the guitar player in the first band I ever played in high school back in the 90s. I caught up with him a couple years ago, and like, he's not on any social media, but every Tuesday he'll reach out and email. He'll find the email addresses of. He'll look through the credits of albums or songs he finds on YouTube. He'll reach out to the lighting director or whoever, all these different people, and he'll just email them the same thing you did, of like, "Hey, I really like your work on this. This looks really cool. Must," for no other reason than to just tell them he liked it. This looks
Yep.
great. He's not looking for work. He's not like, "Hey, we should do this." He's told me that. He's like, does it sometimes lead to work? Yes. Most of the time it doesn't, but whatever, who cares? Like, and he does that week in, week out because he's not on social media, and he's just like, this is how I make contact out there in the world. And that dude has a Grammy and an Emmy Award.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
Love it.
So like, if anyone could feel entitled, like, I shouldn't have to do this. I'm an award-winning, musical composer. If he can do it, we can all do it.
Yeah, great point. I'm going to go into a little bit of astrology here, so you've got to
Ooh.
like bear with me.
Yeah, I'll do that.
I just want to give, because I know you're not an astrologer, and you probably know about astrology from zodiac
pieces,
signs,
yeah.
horoscopes in the
Yeah.
newspaper. Of course, that is just the tip of the iceberg of what astrology is about. But astrology is made like very woo-woo and mystical, and it's actually very pragmatic, in the sense that what astrology is a elevated form of like meteorology. You know how we on the planet, we are always monitoring the weather, giving forecasts about what's coming, leaving. And what astrology does, it just kind of lifts that view up into the solar system, where we're reading the weather of what is going on with these bodies in space, the moon, our relationship to the sun. And if you look at all of that, you can really see our life is completely entwined with astrology, in the sense that we have 7 days out of the week. We all adhere to a calendar, which is the Earth's rotation around the sun, the pull of the tides from the moon. So we're all really enmeshed in astrology, but there's this barrier for people embracing it because of, myriad reasons. It's a pseudoscience that has no empirical evidence. It's whatever. But I can say, after having worked with astrology for, God, way, way too long to give the year count on, it does have veracity. There is something to it. And I bring all of this up because as a culture now, we're beginning to move into, and this relates to technology again, according to astrology, we're getting ready to make this huge transition as the planet Pluto, which as an archetype is more associated with like destruction, regeneration, as it moves into Aquarius now, which is the sign in the zodiac associated with tech, electronics, invention, everything that, our enamorment with technology has to do with. We're now going to see an even more nefarious and intense grab by the tech lords that kind of oversee our life, because face it, internet culture is now the culture. That is the definition, to me at least, of what culture is now, because we're all so entwined into our nervous system, into the internet, social media. So this big shift that's coming, I think we're going to see a lot of, if it's even possible, even more grabs of people's attention, their personal data, their surveillance, all of this. And I'm just curious to hear your thoughts, or if you've even had prescience about this coming with the movement of, Musk. I mean, Musk is essentially a second president now,
Yeah. Yeah.
as things are unfolding in DC.
Mm-hmm.
Bezos, Zuckerberg, Peter Thiel,
Donated their millions to the transition, whatever thing fund or inauguration fund or whatever. Yeah.
So just some of your ideas on kind of what I've proposed here. Do you sense that, or what are your thoughts on this evolution of tech over the next 10, 20 years?
Oh my. Yeah. Well, I mean, I just see it's like that inevitable, like, I mean, everyone's just kind of going along with it, right? Like everyone's just like, Amazon or whatever, Netflix raised the rates again, Disney Plus raised the rates again. This like, and everyone's just like, well, just keep paying it.
Yeah, the squeeze.
Yeah, like it's the boiling frog thing. Like we're just gonna keep paying it and paying it and paying it. That and the technology, like I've said this, I definitely put this on Substack notes. It's like this whole industry, this whole culture right now is built on, we're going to buy the latest phones with the biggest screens and the biggest batteries. We're going to buy the data from the phone companies, and the internet is just going to keep putting a bunch of ads in there for all of us to consume. And, and so many people are just, I'm there too. Of course, I'm intrigued by new tech. Well, not much new tech these days, but like, I think it's going, part of it is the other way. I think the new punk rock is not having a smartphone or not having Spotify or, not being on the social media networks and like willingly unplugging and being more plugged into just the stuff that's right outside in our neighborhood. And it's scary, but like, it's almost as if the thing that pops in my mind of my stint as a born again Christian was, the mark of the beast. You got to, and you're going to have it, or you won't be able to buy things or something. That was a cloudy time in my life, but it's just like, yeah, it's like, if you don't have a smartphone, like it can be difficult to travel. If you can't scan a QR code, you can't see the menu at some restaurants. If you're not carrying, like there's cashless, there's places that don't take cash. And it's like, what is going on here? And and everyone just kind of keeps going along with it. And I don't know. But like, I think there's a brave few, whatever, or a brave but growing amount of people. Like, it's not like, oh, everyone's off Facebook now. It's not that. But like, I think more and more people are going to be doing that. I think more and more people are going to be thinking with cash instead of, credit cards, or driving clunker cars instead of the new, whatever that new Tesla
or the
truck thing.
Cybertruck.
Oh, there's one of those in
Beautiful
town. Every
Cybertruck.
time I see it, I
Tech,
just want to throw a wrench at it. Like,
Seth, we can
it's
take this out
despicable.
in the
Like,
post.
so I don't know. Yeah, the technology.
No,
Yeah.
I mean, on my end, I'm having a hard time understanding you because you're freezing a lot.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah.
I don't know. You're saying that's going to be safe going up to your computer?
Yes. Yeah,
With
it'll
the-
all be clear. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, we can nix that out because one thing you said that went in and out was about the mark of the beast, and it was like, oh my God, that sounds great to go into. But
Yeah, about my stint with Chris. born again Christianity. Yeah, at a small point in my life. Yeah.
And what what was that about for you? Was it because going back to your horoscope, there's
Mm.
like strong markers in your chart that there would be a draw to something, otherworldly or
Mm.
religious or spiritual, because of your moon and Pisces. Um, and that is oftentimes how a person's first pass at that is some form of Orthodox religion or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, has that changed for you? Where did that move from born again? What new
Away from that. Yeah.
is that in now for you, if you don't mind talking about that?
The move away from that was a cast of characters in the orbit of a divorce many years ago. It was just like, because I wasn't raised at all in religion or whatever, and then I got
Yeah.
into it because of you know, as we do in our 20s, you meet someone that and then they're into this, and then I'm into that, and like and so, but then like moving away from that and having a bunch of friends that were in that group as well, but then everyone going through the same shit of like, wait, I don't like this. This doesn't seem right, and so then there's a whole group of those same people that like I forget, I don't even know the proper term, but the deconstruction of their faith or whatever. I was for me it was just like, this sucks. I don't like this. I don't like, and there's a whole bunch of podcasts about that and stuff these days, but yeah, I don't know. So it was just kind of a coming back to what's in front of me, what seems more real, and also too, like, I don't want to be around shitty people. I mean, it made it real easy too in 2016. That whole shit show on Twitter with evangelicals and like rooting for Trump and stuff like that. I was like, what are we even talking? What are you even talking about?
Mhm.
So that they could get behind someone like that, and yeah, so it was like, yeah, I don't want to be on that side of history. So
So then would you say that that moved into your music? Because that music is actually a form of, I consider it a spiritual form of creativity. I think music is the most mysterious thing people have ever created.
Mm.
It's beyond words, which is, to me, that in itself is mind blowing.
Mm-hmm.
Would you say that's like an important part of your life still now?
Oh,
And
yeah. I mean, I'm a third generation musician. My mother played with her mother in country bands back in the 70s. Both my parents were like working musicians when I was a wee little Seth. I had two uncles that played music, one that put out a record in the early 80s, self-released a record.
very cool.
Yeah. So I grew up around a lot of rock and roll and stuff and records, all that. Like and then like, then in the early 90s, played in the bands and all that up through the 2000s. And then starting to write about music then, because, I didn't end up being a rock star. So I was like, well, at least I can write about it and talk about my friends and talk about the bands I like. And that led me to where I am now, like 20 some whatever years later, of like, by staying in and sticking around music and being around the magic of music and like working with people and artists and musicians and designers and people that put on shows and the people behind the scenes and all, the armies of everything that make music possible, behind the
Yeah, that
scenes.
machine.
Yeah, total machine,
Yeah.
for better or worse. And yeah, and so yeah, the music thing, yeah, to come back. I don't want to say like music's my religion, but music's a major part of who I am. Like I live and breathe music. So
Yeah. Well, you could replace religion with philosophy or
sure.
spirit.
Walking in the woods is my religion, I guess. Yeah,
Yes.
I don't know.
But as a Gemini, which you are, like
Mhm.
I was telling you in that one email, I see in their lives they have these two, distinct
Yes.
paths, and kind of for their sanity, it's important, that they are able to, they have that ambidextrous thing going where they
Hmm.
actually do both things successfully.
Yeah, you put it as like a multitasking, but like in a good way.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
because yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So you and I think also, I think you and I also share a particular disdain. I have a lot of Scorpio in my chart too, like
Okay.
Scorpio ascendant. We had talked to Tad about this maybe in the emails about the phenomenon of the expert
Oh yeah.
culture that seems to have become like a key component in Donald Trump's reelection this time.
Mm.
You know, the manosphere, brosphere.
Mm-hmm.
You go to Spotify, all the top podcasts are these, what I consider to be deranged people. Candace Owens, Bill Shapiro, Ben Shapiro,
Yeah.
Jordan Peterson.
Mm-hmm.
And what's your take on this and how this has captivated, especially men and boys
Mm.
in the culture?
Yeah. I mean, wait. Maybe it goes back to like just the internetification of so much of like, because I mean, for me, I mean, this is just my experience, but in the 90s, early 90s, we didn't have that, but we I write about this too of like, I met people that played music. And so, yes, we would hang out at the food court at the mall, but then we left and we hung out in my buddy's basement and banged around on guitars and drums. And I don't know, I just don't see or feel that as much with this is me very much from the outside because I'm not plugged into
Mm-hmm.
the youth culture, but like, I mean, is that still a thing? Our I know music's being made and stuff like that, but it's just like so I just think it's isolation. It's just so easy to not go out and start a band because why even start a band? I'm not going to get big and popular. Why even start? But like I could sit at home and turn a camera on and start a podcast, and then I could be the next Joe Rogan. Because all it is a camera, and like I could do that. I could talk and say whatever I want, and like people like give me a bunch of likes for it, or stream. You could be on Twitch and like, yeah, I don't know. And then like I think it's just like a matter of like if I'm bored and then I just fill my time listening to other people talk about what they talk about instead of being around other bored dumbasses. I mean, when I was in that band in the early 90s, we were just a bunch of bored dumbasses. Like, well, I guess we could try to be like the Red Hot Chili Peppers and bang around and do whatever. Like and then like we had talks on the back porch after practice about deep things and Radiohead and whatever. And I don't know, but if you replace all that with just like I'm gonna be on YouTube and go down the algorithm of like these wingnuts,
Yeah.
I guess it's kind of easy. And then you go on Twitter and there's all these people that like agree with you. Yeah, feminism's bad and stuff. Like, yeah, I guess it's easy to stay in that world.
I think the flip side of what you're saying relates to the bigger picture again with the takeover of everything tech and social media. People have become disconnected from, say, their muse. And so this is why there's just this glut of these experts that are, grift. I consider it a form of grift, basically, where, they're telling everybody, not necessarily Joe Rogan or whatever, but there's this whole like,
The gurus.
yes, the gurus, and it just, to me, it's very frightening because it's like, my God, how disconnected is a person, become from their own gumption and their own, well, again, creative drive. They're kind of frozen and then just imbibing all of this stuff.
Mhm.
And I think that's always been there from the beginning of time and culture. Like I told you, my dad, I remember these books he would read, like,
Mm.
how to win friends and influence people.
Yeah, never eat alone. Yeah.
So there's always that part, but to me, it's just exponentially exploded now.
Mm.
And I connect it to the loss of a person's connection to their muse,
Oh, yeah.
which when you're creatively possessed, you you don't, you might get some tips here and there from somebody, but you're much more devoted to getting out of your system, your book, your painting, your garden, your recipe, whatever, than just sitting there passively listening to these gigantic narcissists, you know? So it's a very odd phenomenon, and I can't wait till it passes, if it ever will, you know? Um,
Yeah. Yeah, because again, it's how was Justin Bieber discovered? Oh, he was on YouTube, right? Or whatever, and then he took off. And like, well, now I
right.
could be on YouTube and someone could discover me and I could take off. But like, no, like yes, that happened. And there's other artists that you and I both know that struck it big because of the internet, because of social media, whatever. But like, yeah, and people win the lottery. And a lot of us don't.
Yeah.
Most of us don't. Like, that's
Mhm,
how the lottery still exists. That's why gambling is such a thing, because a
mhm.
lot of people don't win at it.
Yep.
And everyone's just kind of like enamored by the few people that Corey's post about and shitification of like, someone won the big teddy bear and they're carrying it around the carnival. Oh, look, I can win the big teddy bear. And
Yeah.
I'm going to go over there and play it. And you're not going to win the big teddy bear. And like everyone's chasing the big teddy bear. And also too, because it's so low stakes. It's a couple bucks. I throw a thing. If I don't win it, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Whereas like if you take a chance and like write a song and like go to an open mic night, or you try to work up 5 minutes of material for some stand-up stuff or whatever like that, that's just scary. It's very scary. And like I don't think a lot of people want to do scary shit and be laughed at and not be good at things in public.
That's such a good point, because again, we're presented with these Justin Biebers, or I don't know, there's all these people, like you say, discovered on YouTube and
Yeah.
blah, blah. I don't know how long their careers are going to be, but that fame draw, the Warhol, 15 minutes,
Mm.
everybody's going to get allotted thing, that definitely like got huge traction in the with social media, kind of taking everybody's attention over. And I think one last thing I'll bring up about this was the impact that COVID had
Mm.
on driving everybody back into this kind of passivity. And now it's been difficult for them to get out of it. And to your point too, about putting yourself out there, being willing to be a failure, or not be perfect, or
Mhm.
um that but that's a rite of passage for any creative person, is they must, I mean, unless they're like a child prodigy or something,
Sure.
they must go through that, and then the feedback and the dialectic with their audience or whatever is crucial
Mm.
to them, developing. I remember this great interview with Joni Mitchell where someone uh, asked her, like, well, what advice do you have for a novice songwriter, or whatever, singer-songwriter? And she said, well, I can only speak for myself. And what I did was I found people that I was drawn to, and I tried to mimic what they were doing, to get down what they were doing. And I'm paraphrasing all of this. And she
Sure.
said, and then I just started to set standards for myself that I kept working and working, to reach
Mhm.
that. And then basically unhinged from whoever she was, mimicking or being, influenced by,
Yeah.
and that helped her develop her own voice and style and everything
Yeah.
like that.
Well, I mean, you know, that band, again, my experience, that band I was in high school, with that dude that I talked about that went on, won a Grammy and an Emmy for like that guitar player, Tim Day. Fantastic. He was so good. And Johnny Rydell, who, rest in peace, he passed away a few years ago, but like he was amazing. I was just a bass player because I couldn't hack it as a guitar player. I was like, I'm in the room with these amazing musicians. Like, oh, you know, I think it's a part of that too, is just being in rooms or being around people that are a step or two or three above you. Like I've been made a conscious decision, like intentional decision to just be around people. Like I've hopped on more Zoom calls, group Zoom calls and stuff like that, taking a chance of like mastermind groups kind of thing. Like it sounds cheesy, but it's like, you know, oh, let me get in a room with a bunch of smart people and see what happens. Like because I've never done it before.
Yep.
So especially on the Zoom front. And going back to your point of like, you know, everything needs to be so perfect. You and I see these amazingly perfect YouTube videos with the lights and the sound, and it looks great. It's edited. Yeah, it's all edited. Whereas, like, you know, doing an interview like this, what comes out, what happens is like, I mean, we're flying close to the sun with this stuff. Like, this could be a total flop or it could work or whatever. And like, you only get better at it by like doing shit that has a risk to it. That it can fall off the rails. And like a lot of people just like, I mean, and I get it because it sucks to suck. So
Yeah.
like you only get better at it by doing the stuff. And like, I mean, I get it. Like, would it be easier for me to like, you know, sit on my butt and eat ice cream right now and be watching, I don't know, some Saturday football or some shit? Like, yeah, probably. But like, where's that going to get me? You know?
Exactly. Yeah. Let's talk about Substack
Oh
because you
boy.
both have a hearty engagement and I guess, you know, big numbers there. I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Um,
Yay.
but what do you see? How's your experience been with the evolution of Substack?
I mean, I've done nothing but benefit from Substack and the system that it is and the referrals and the discoverability. It's been amazing. Um, I'm gonna say career changing, I think, for me, like just the attention and the stuff that I've written and how it's been received and like the waves it's making, which is amazing. But like at the same time, it's like, whoa, we are heading into some serious social media vibes. And we're also heading into some serious, like, again, because Substack just can't get out of its own way of like, hey, we're going to support this big new media outlet over here that's not great and a lot of people don't like. And
Now, you talking about the free press?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
See, for people that don't, just give a little bit of a idea for people that don't know what we're talking about with that.
yeah. Well, the idea, I mean, it's one, MailChimp doesn't have like an editorial slant to it. Hey, pay us, you can send emails. Fine. And that's what Substack started out as. But then Substack got more and more into the whole world of like, you know what, we're going to bring in these writers and stuff back in the day, hot button, you know, button pusher writers, you know, and Substack's had a record of like supporting some writers and such and characters and people that rub people the wrong way. And
Yes.
so there's definitely been like a slant, but at the same time, they're a business. They got to make money. Like to a degree, like I get it. It's their business. They need to make money. They need to increase shareholder value or whatever all that big stuff is. They are totally in a position of fuck your feelings. They need to make money. And like, if that's how they want to do it, like that's up to them. And like, as people on a platform, you know, I don't think there's any utopian platform because business isn't utopia. It's business and it sucks. And people are talking and people making moves and thinking different things now and relying less on platforms, individual platforms. So.
Yes, I should have been clear when I asked you about free press. For people that aren't up with what's going on with that, free press. Now, I shouldn't even be elaborating on it because I'm just kind of caught the tip of this from
Yeah.
bitching, you know. Well, first of all, these purity tests that people bring to
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yes.
stuff, you know, it's, to me, it's insane. I mean, I know there's apparently Nazis that are on Substack.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would, I would rather be rather some Nazis on a publishing platform because I really don't want somebody censoring me.
Sure.
And
Sure.
people, okay, so they're there. You don't, you don't aren't forced to read
They're
whatever.
going to be there if we're on Substack or not.
Exactly. So anyway, that kind of stuff drives me crazy. But
Yeah.
I guess the free press is like a big conglomerate of writers that came together from different media, papers, magazines, whatever, and have started this free, it's called the Free Press. I guess it's right leaning. Is that
Yeah.
the problem?
Something like that. Yeah. Some anti, yeah, some transphobic, some racist,
So
whatever,
right there,
whatever stuff. Yeah.
right there is a huge red flag for people because I think we're in the fucking mess we're in now with the orange bloat back in office because people, you know, again, thanks to social media, lived in these bell jars and echo chambers of, you know, just reading what I want to read and hate
Sure.
who I want to hate.
Yeah.
And all of this kind of nuance and stuff that used to exist in pre-internet media. I mean, obviously, people have always had preferences, and I want support for my philosophies, politics, but it's so stringent now that we're never going to get out of the mess we're in unless people can start cross-pollinating ideas.
Yeah. Yeah. I was on a call this week of a bunch of people talking about this. Definitely from the queer circles, marginalized group circles, talking about it. And but the one person definitely brought up of like that in their work, they've been able to have conversations, talk, and not beat people over the head and convert and this and that, but like some people have changed their minds. And it wasn't like this big, and this person didn't state it as like, I'm here to get everybody on the right side. Wasn't that. It was just like, I've had conversations with people and we've like found common ground. They've changed their minds, whatever. But it was never a big black and white thing of like, the world's a better place if all of them die. It's not that.
Right.
It's yo, if I'm here, I can have these conversations at least. Is that everybody's job? No, but like, yeah, I don't know. It's there's a lot of nuance to it, but like at the same time, like, yeah, ridding Substack of that, like, I don't think is going to change anything. Because if they're not on Substack, they're going to be somewhere else.
Yeah, that's true. And to give Substack props, first of all, when I got wind of Substack like 3.5 years ago, I had been running a website, did fairly well for me. But when I saw what they were doing with micropayments, which to me, it always blew my mind that wasn't made more easily available or technically put in place for people doing websites that you pay a little bit, read a little bit, whatever. But as soon as I left my site and got on the platform on Substack, I mean, my income literally like quadrupled.
Yeah.
Because of the ease that people had.
Yep.
So that kind of a thing I thought is fantastic.
Yes.
And go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, like, yeah, Substack created a great ecosystem. I've a shit ton more subscribers these days. I'm making money from my writing. It's opened doors for me. And like, they made this great product. Like, why should only the bad people or whatever be able to use it? Like, I have to now go find someplace else, or I don't know. They're like, I want to be here because the tools are really good and stuff. So
yeah, and the people I generally the people, or to the points we were making earlier, the ease that you can DM somebody,
Mhm.
or not be inundated with advertising, or
Mhm.
Elon Musk isn't, hovering over you with his bullshit.
Yeah.
Like, that to me is I very valuable. So my nitpicky things about Substack are very minor, and what I'd love to see is Amish and Chris come in a little bit more and just not be so walking on eggshells about things that are brought up to them, you know,
Yeah.
and they, take a chance at saying something that might, cause a rupture with somebody or whatever, but
Sure.
just get a little bit more human with it and things like that. I mean, of course,
Yeah.
they might think they're doing that. I don't know, but that's my intuitive sense about what's going on. It's that political kind of doing careful, metered, parsed out statements and shit like that.
Well, it's the political tech side of things.
Right.
It's the tech. It's the techno like like how whatever like it's a platform. It has to create money, it has to make profit, it has to whatever and like
Hey, you and I both have to make money and profit.
oh, right, yeah. I mean that's why idealistically I haven't like canceled Substack and like set up Mailchimp or something like that. And Mailchimp's a shit company too. Like yeah, they're because they're owned by Intuit, who's
Well, they used
lobbied
to be
Congress for
cool.
years. You know,
They,
like
they used to be cool, Melch, and
they
then
did.
people bought it, and then I got
Yeah,
up there immediately.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah. So like the like what this talk of like oh well I'm gonna go to this other company or I'm gonna use this other service and like I mean they're owned and operated. It's business.
Yeah, I
Like, there's just nothing utopian about any of them.
the dude on Beehive just ragging the shit out of Substack, and of course he's running a competitive
Yeah.
product to Substack.
Yeah, yeah, of course.
Get
Like,
real, please.
yeah, and I just want to send a newsletter once or twice a week, and like, I love that I can upload video directly to it and embed
Sleep.
audio, and like it integrates with Stripe, and I get to make money, and like that's super cool, and like, yeah, it's amazing. It's an amazing product, and so. Are there shortcomings? Yeah, yeah, of course there are, but like,
And get over them, people, or do something.
yeah, oh my
Right.
goodness, the bullshit on freaking Substack notes of these people. Oh, none of my stuff like takes off. I'm just posting into the void. Yeah, well, do it for another 10 years. No one wants to eat shit for 10 or 20 years. No one wants to eat shit. Like I ran a music blog from 2001 to 2008. 7 years. I mean, I was young. I didn't know any better. But like that was 7 fucking years of I didn't realize I was eating shit. Until it took me to, I got a job at AOL Music then. I started a music blog for them. Like, holy crap. But that was 7 years. And there's people that are like, I've been on here for 2 months and like I only have 13 subscribers. It's like, what?
Yes. When I left my website, I brought because over 10 years
Mm,
I had brought built on fucking MailChimp a mailing list of 10,000 people.
wow.
So, well, I'm just saying, so when I
Yeah.
went to Substack, imported that in, I was, up and running. And
Yeah.
but my God, it took me 10 years to get
Yeah.
10
Oh, yeah.
people. So yeah, people need to look at that. But I had a great idea for you
Mm,
because I started, now I'm shifting gears again.
that's all
I
right.
I I had started, I did a post on Notes the other day, just sort of like pulled it out of my ass about AI art.
Oh,
And I don't know if you saw that, but somehow that kind of went viral on there, and
I
just
think I did. Yeah.
spread across, and because I'd worked as an art director, still
Mm,
do
yes.
for years, I was just explaining in detail what is so hideous to me about AI art. And
Hmm.
anyway, So that got this incredible dialogue going back and forth. And then one of the things that was born out of that dialogue, to your point again about people, having meaningful conversations,
Yeah.
was, and here's where I was thinking of you, um, someone needs to, or you might have the resources with your peeps that you are connected with. Someone should start something on Substack that's sort of like a co-op for the artists and the illustrators and the collagists and the watercolorists and the photographers. And because my point was, I was seeing all of this hideous AI art being used by people to open up their posts.
Yeah.
You want to have a great graphic of some kind.
Yeah.
So my idea was somebody start a co-op and everyone that's doing art of whatever media on Substack get involved, and then writers that needs, can come in here and then see these different options from different artists that are there for them.
I know Tom Bland and Diana Pappas. I think they Painting with Light, I think is the name of their Substack. Painting with Light. They're two photographers, and no, it's Pappas. I'm sorry, I forget
That's
the name.
correct. I just
We'll get it right in the
Me.
post. Yeah, we'll link it correctly in the end. But no, they offered their archive of photographs for people to use, here and there to work collaboratively with, and they've been able to do that. So then their photos then lead, the post that this writer or two or whatever would use. But yeah, to your point, like, yeah, it's like there's nothing, there's AI, and then there's like Getty images. And it's like, wow, there's such a space in between that, like, I mean, yeah, photographers could come together. I mean, to a degree, like what Pexel is kind of that. That's some real photographers in there and stuff or whatever. But like, I mean, it's pretty fancy stuff too. But
I mean, I just flashed on an image I saw the other day in town. Somebody had sprayed on a giant dumpster. It said Getty image, because how you see that on every photo you see nowadays. It's like they've watermarked it.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
They own the complete visual world.
Yep.
Maybe this would be something like for Substack to take on, where they set up a collective and then people post, and then people can go through there like, Unsplash.
Well, I think I've seen some photographers talk to one another about getting their photos on Unsplash or Pexels or whatever it is. Yeah.
But I'm saying it could be done in Substack, and then with their savvy with monetization stuff, you could pay like $1 or $2 to use someone's photograph and then put it on your.
Oh, but people want to pay a flat fee and be able to read paywalled posts, 50 of them a month, like they want that too. Like that's never going to happen, but once we start working money into this, it's it's hard enough.
Speaking of the artists, like,
I mean, yeah, I wish I'd love for more photographers to make money for all this, but.
Well, it can be like, if you look at my Substack, I use public domain images, old Victorian woodcuts and shit from NASA that's free. And most museums have just all of their stuff's open to be used, with an acknowledgement and stuff.
Yeah. Flickr, the Creative Commons. There's a lot of stuff on there. Yeah, there's so much to work with. And we're just putting stuff into AI bullshit machines. So.
Oh my God. If I see any more Mid-Journey shit, I'm
it's wretched. It's it's horrible.
And I feel bad for people listening to this, and they're like, "Gee, I use some of that stuff."
Well,
I mean, you need it.
I mean, we've I've done some dumb stuff over the years too. I remember. In my blogging days, I remember one time using a photographer's a photo from a show without permission, and I got beat to shit on that one. Like, that was not fun. I rightfully had to write a check afterwards, like, "Hey, thanks for letting me use your photo." Like,
Right. Yeah, I always attribute and give, credit or, if it's
yeah.
collage I've put together
Mhm.
or whatever
Mhm.
and stuff. Anyway, so that was one interesting idea I thought I'd throw out. Is there any other stuff how do you, we want to touch on? I feel like we got a lot under
Well,
the
I
belt.
think I think there's many subjects we hit on here, from music to past to I can't believe I brought up born again Christianity
Well, I love this.
to
See, that's more
whew,
Scorpio getting your
woo.
going
So
there.
now I think
Talk
we're in a
about
good spot
that.
with all this. Yeah. Yeah. I and did we fix the Substack conundrum? No. Did we fix the Spotify thing? No, but I don't know, one or two more people out there that decide to delete one of these accounts or whatever, and go out and buy a record or go buy a photo book or something like that. Whatever. I think
Hey,
we did our job.
I, as much as I bitched about all this stuff for a decade, still on Instagram. I'm
Well,
still on, well, not Twitter.
hmm,
I'm on Blue Sky,
okay.
but only as like a a cat that kind of darts in and out.
Sure.
I'll just throw a
Well,
post up and get out.
and I say
Or-
this like, yeah, if you're on social media and you can do that, if you can go on and you can get in, get out, fine, whatever, it works for you. But a lot in my world is like people that are like, my screen time's 5 hours on Instagram, or like I go on there and like I feel depressed and it makes me feel bad and I can't put it down and this and that. Like more of what I'm writing about and talking with people is
yeah,
that world of like you because they are so like pulled in, sucked in, and like think that they can't live without it. So the
yeah,
idea of only being on it for an hour a day is like hard to
yeah.
comprehend. So I mean,
I
there's
hope
that
you,
whole world. So if it
I
works for you, work it. Yeah.
Well, it's, and of course, when I look at statistics as far as, you know, analytics of what, I
Hmm.
mean, it brings in nothing like it did, say,
Yes.
3 years ago. So I'm
Sure.
probably on the verge of like just nuking it all and, whatever. But
Yeah.
I would love to see you like talk more with, I don't know, like sociologists or
Oh
psychologists
my. Well,
that could help people understand more the addiction
yeah.
and and I mean, it's one thing to just bitch about it and kind of make fun of it,
Mhm.
but to see the underpinnings of it and the psyche as to like what's going on and being forced more and more into passivity and voyeurism,
Yeah.
feeling shitty about it, like you're saying.
Right, and how that then all too leads to people not starting bands or people not starting to paint or whatever, and like as a culture, what we miss out on because of that. You're
Absolutely.
right. Yeah. Well,
I,
I'm trying to do more interviews for sure. I'm gonna do more of that in
I'm
2025.
going to
That's for
become
sure.
your manager. So, but I did have to leave you with this image that keeps like floating like a comet in my head right now from what we were talking about earlier. But I remember when I was a young kid, this neighborhood that we lived in, and it used to drive my dad crazy. But there were at least 4 or 5 houses in this track house thing.
Yeah.
And all of the boys in the neighborhood or in the families there were doing bands in their garage.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
you would hear this pounding and playing, and then, kids smoking cigarettes out by
Mm-hmm.
the garage. But I just, now I'm sounding like some old grandpa or something, but it was just such a joyous kind of thing,
Yeah.
you know?
What me growing up in the 90s, in our little town in the Poconos of Pennsylvania, there used to be, I mean, it's not a big town, but it was like we had 5 bike shops. 5, like mountain bikes, road bikes, all that shit.
Yeah.
And now I don't think they have one bike shop, all these years later. And I remember too back then when I was in high school, we were always playing like pickup basketball. You would drive around town and you would go by the certain basketball courts to see if anyone was there. Because it was before cell phones, because whatever, you would, hey, are people there? I'm going to go there and maybe get in the game. But I remember as the years went on, there were less people playing basketball
Right.
or skateboarding. There were less and less people skateboarding because they were playing Tony Hawk on PlayStation when that came out.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, where did all this go?
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I don't know. The technology has taken us to, people would rather play, I hate saying it, people or kids, but like, yeah, it's harder to play basketball or find people to play basketball with
Yeah.
because we just don't do it.
But it's people like you and I and peers in the same vector that I think are going to be nudging people and re-stimulating these ideas and memories. And
There's a handful of people out there too that are talking about leaving social media. And like, I mean, sure, it's if you're looking for it, you'll find it. But like, I see more and more people talking about leaving an Instagram or putting down their phone or getting a dumb phone and stuff like that. And like, just trying it, doing it and stuff. And like, we didn't wake up one day and like we were addicted to our phones. It happened slowly over time. And I think, it's going the other way that like, that we'll get back to buying records or whatever. So
exactly. Yeah. Like I said to you in that email, I literally, oh my God, that's a word I said I was not going to use anymore. I honestly, the other day when I knew I was going to talk with you, I started to try to imagine like, what did I do like back in the 70s and 80s when I would get up in the morning and there wasn't a smartphone, there wasn't a computer, no internet. And I could not, I mean, of course I can remember, but it's just sort of like a big blank because how so much of this is like pushed its way, into the current brain cells that are still active,
and the apps and who benefits from it. It's the cell phone companies. It's the providers of the data. It's the advertisers that we look at every day, like unwillingly or whatever. And like, it's wild. And to think of like stepping away from that, of like, plugging our phone in the next room. So when we wake up in the morning, we just go for a walk instead. We go down the street for a bagel or something, and we have no idea what's going on. None.
Exactly. It's like Fran Lebowitz says, if you're here like this, that is your entire world. And then everything else is going on out here. But if this is it, that's pretty limited.
I find myself, when I get in my car, like before I turn the car on or I'll warm the car up, I got to look at my phone. And like, I'm looking. I don't even know why I'm looking. But then I catch myself of like, wait, when I put down the phone and I'm like going to put the car in gear, I'm like, whoa, wait, I got to look around. Like I was just in this world.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if there's someone like, and I'm like raring to go, put it in reverse and go. I'm like, no, I need to check my mirrors, where, like,
because it's for a small child.
Right. Or back into a car or something like that. It's terrifying. It's so easy to get sucked into our phones. So
it is.
Yep.
Well, Seth, thank you. As this is a great discussion. I've really enjoyed this. And
me too.
Let's do it again at some point.
Absolutely.
Pluto and Aquarius destroying the tech.
Absolutely. Like what today today is what's today? The winter equinox or
the solstice.
The
sure. Return of the light. See,
yes.
We're on the ascent now.
Right. So hey, I think the spring whatever equinox or whatever it's called.
That's in March. Yeah.
March. Yeah. Well, I mean, we're going to keep talking. So yeah, let's see where all this leads for sure.
All right.
For sure.
Great. Have a good Christmas too.
Yes. You do the same. Happy holidays. Be safe and merry.
And everybody out there.
Absolutely. Cool.